friends, in this tutorial video I am going to be going over how to knit socks 2 at a time. Grab your knitting beverage of choice, crocheting, and let's dive into this tutorial video. If you like this type of content, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button because I upload a brand new video every single Thursday and want to hear from you. Knitting socks 2 at a time really does have its benefits because you are able to really make a matching pair of socks. It also avoids that second sock syndrome in case that you don't want to cast on that second pair of socks. So knitting socks 2 at a time is really a lot of fun and a great way for really getting a pair of socks done. What you want to do when knitting socks 2 at a time is actually cast them on separately. I do find that this is the easiest way to knit socks 2 at a time is to knit the cuffs separately and then join in for working just in the round for the body of the leg. Here I have cast on 2 pairs of socks. I am doing my perfect double-stranded sock pattern, so that's why you see that there's 2 strands of yarn. This exact technique works for single strand socks, and I have cast on and I've done 10 rounds of 2x2 ribbing. For a 2 at a time, you do need a 32-inch to a 40-inch cable. I highly recommend closer to a 40-inch cable, and this will allow you enough room to be able to knit the 2 at a time. This is why that one of my pairs of socks is actually on the 40-inch cable and the other one is just on that 24 to 32-inch cable. So here's how we join them for working them 2 at a time. What you want to do is slide this first sock onto the cable and off of the needles because we are going to be using these needles to pick up and get cuff onto this one. Now it's very, very important as well that when you are looking at this that you are transferring them exactly on the same side. If I were, for an example, to transfer them like this, my working yarn would be in different areas. You want to make sure that your working yarn is on the right side and ready to knit these front stitches. And make sure that both of them are exactly the same. And you can see that here we are ready, yarn, to work these stitches over here. Now friends, this is very, very easy and simple. So what I do to make my life easier is I'm actually just going to slip these stitches onto this needle to make it easy for me to transfer them here. And when you slip, you want to slip purl-wise. So you're just not working, you are just slipping these stitches. So you pick it up as if to purl, and you are going to slip them onto that needle. Every single stitch. All right, and what this does is it gets your needles ready for you to be able to very easily transfer them to this needle. If I hadn't done that, it would have been very, very difficult for me to try and pick up these stitches. So I pull out the back needle because I only like working with one needle at a time. Okay, and what we're going to do, we are going to transfer the front stitches to the front needle. And I'm actually going to turn the work because it's easier for me to slip them like this. So you see here now, this was my front needle and I am slipping all of these stitches onto that front needle. Okay, so we are going to slip them, again purl-wise, so that it does not twist your stitches. We drop that needle, and you can see now that I have transferred over both sets of front stitches. Now we're going to do the exact same thing for the back, but we don't need to slip these stitches onto the needle because we did that at the beginning. We're going to push the needle onto the stitches, and we're just going to use the back needle, same thing that we did for the front, slipping those stitches purl-wise onto this. this needle. Again, I like bringing it through, only working with 2 needles at a time. And we are going to slip it purlwise onto the needle. And we're at our last stitch. So once you're at your last stitch, this set of needles should be completely clear. We can set this one aside because we don't need them anymore. We are going to do all of the work on your 40-inch cable. Now you can turn your work and you can see here that we have both cuffs starting at the exact same location and ready to knit. What you want to do to make your life easier is you want to separate the balls of yarn on the 2 sides. When you are knitting 2 socks at a time, it can get very, very tangled, but let me show you a fun tip and trick to not get your yarn super tangled. What you want to do is you are going to take out your back needle and we are going to knit this first sock using your working yarn. Always tugging to make sure that we don't create those ladders. I like tugging with the first 3 stitches, so you can see here in the back I tug. This is really to make sure that there are no ladders in our socks because we do not like ladders. They are not fun and they are not pretty. So we're just going to knit across these stitches. Once we've knit across those stitches, I want you to take that yarn and place it down because we are not going to be working with that one anymore. We are going to be working the front stitches on our second sock. So you're going to slide those onto the needle, picking up that back yarn and doing the exact same thing. We are going to knit all the way across. Always make sure that you use the right yarn. I've done this in the past where the yarns have been so close that I've actually knit from the other ball of yarn. So definitely make sure you are pulling from that right ball of yarn. You are going to knit across. Exact same thing. Now, if you were knitting a pair of socks that had patterning or anything, that's when you would do your pattern or cables or lace. But for this example, I am just knitting in plain stockinette. So knitting every single round for this pair of socks. Now, once you reach the end of your round, you're going to drop that yarn and you are going to turn your work. Now you can see here that the yarn got twisted. Let me show you a little bit better. The yarn was twisted. Now what I like to do, I always like to look at my yarn and I will twist it back. Okay? I physically twisted my knitting to undo the twist. Let me show you that again right after we finish this round. So right now, we are working these back stitches. Okay? Knitting every single stitch. The way to not get your yarn tangled is that you want to make sure that you turn clockwise the first time and counterclockwise. So you're always undoing your twist rather than just keep on twisting your project. And that's when it can get really, really fiddly. Once we finish that first cuff, let go of our yarn, push our second set here. And you can see just by doing that, it already untwisted that yarn. And we are going to knit on the second cuff. Tugging, always make sure I tug. And that is the way I've avoided ladders. Just knitting across all of those stitches. Once we've knit across, we are ready to turn our work. A minute ago, we turned clockwise. Now we want to turn counterclockwise. And you see what it did here to the back? It untwisted your yarn. So when you knit this one, we're gonna turn clockwise, work the back needles counterclockwise, and your yarns are not going to get twisted. Because if we were just to always go clockwise, you see here in the back, it completely twists your yarn. So if you do, let me get that back. Here we go. So if you do your yarn clockwise and then counterclockwise, it won't twist in the back. Let me show that one more time. Pull out our back needle and we are going to work the front stitches. All knitting, tugging. Want to tug. Not too tight, you just want to tug gently, really to close in any gap that may happen. Finish that cuff, set the yarn down, and we move on to the second. You are just working one sock at a time with only 2 needles. It looks more intimidating than it is to do. Once you try it out, you'll see if you like it or not. Let me know below. Have you tried knitting socks 2 at a time before? Are you wanting to try this technique? Let me know your thoughts. We finish the front stitches, we turn clockwise, pulling that needle through, pulling the back out, and we are going to work the back stitches, which are now on the front. Finish these stitches, put your yarn down, move on to the second. I always like sliding that cuff a little bit just to separate it. Tug and knit across. And it really is this simple. And once we finish knitting across, then we will turn our work counterclockwise to undo that little twist that the yarn did in the back. When we finish, you can see the yarn is twisted here. When I turn counterclockwise, it untwists my work. And that is on you how you cast on and work socks 2 at a time. In the next video, I will share with you all how you can do a German short row heel on socks 2 at a time.